realize.
Years without involving the AMA, and he said, we did not know that you were talking about cannabis. Marijuana is just a slang term that has been applied to cannabis. We don't know of any dangers that are associated with cannabis. This is what the AMA said contemporaneously in 1937. At that time, there were 28 different patent medicines that were on the market that contained cannabis. And if you go back to the turn of the century, cannabis was probably the number 2 or 3 most commonly used medication in the United States. And you had all of the well-known drug companies produced tincture of cannabis. Eli Lilly, Park Davis, Squibb, Merck, Smith Brothers, the cough drop people. All of these companies produced products that had cannabis in them. And the Congress didn't want to hear from the AMA. They chastised this doctor and said, if you don't have anything constructive to say, we don't want to hear it.
Did society have, even through the workplace as opposed to the federal workplace, to impose a seizure and a search on the basis of no suspicions at all, but that we had an enormous drug problem. So yeah, my initiation into activism was over the politics of urine testing.
Mm-hmm.
To do on the face of it,
somehow
that's unethical.
It smacks of Hitler's medical policies.
That's right. The idea that a physician should serve the criminal justice system, or as indeed all my enemies would say, well, we're not serving the criminal justice system, but what they are is serving this fallacious attempt to sanitize the workplace and to fire people simply because they choose to use this illegal substance, which shouldn't be illegal. And so I've often hoped that urine testing and its excesses would serve as a springboard for us to help attack the war on drugs, while in reality what it's done is to recruit a number of people into valuable financial careers. I mean, there's not a group. There are these physicians certifying tests. There are physicians who are willing to take, quote, patients who are sent to them for certification and re-entry into the middle class society on the basis of reviewing the results of their urine. I love today, the first time I ever heard anybody say we should be judged on not on the quality of our urine, but on the quality of our character and what their urine shows. And of course the scientific establishment, particularly the toxicology establishment, who rely much more on a test than what anybody says, or on the individual's performance. I've tried to help people who are being fired who have perfectly good or even superior work records, but that doesn't matter very much to the drug warrior. And even when he achieves success, he still needs more money. Of course, when he fails, he needs more money. The prevalence of urine testing, as you may have heard today, has gone down a little bit in the United States. Particularly small companies have not signed on to test their 50 employees. They just know it's not worth it for them to do so. And so the drug testing industry has looked to this declining application of drug tests as a crisis. So we have to start testing more often, even though the positive rate has declined also. But that's to them a reason. It looks like they've been a success, but what they want is more money, so they can push up the rate of use. And so now they're lobbying very hard to start testing other groups of people, because in a certain sense they have exhausted some percentage of the market. So failure, success, none of that matters. What matters is a moral crusade, and of course a complex which needs to continue making money. The war on drugs is astonishingly corrupt, and it's astonishingly harmful, and yet it goes on because it supplies a livelihood to so many people in America, and because it fills people's joy at being a moral crusader and being morally right. Actively induce mistakes, the same as alcohol users. So that's the danger of marijuana, a danger which is controllable by socialization, education, and legalization. Mm-hmm. And to tell them the crack is coming and they've got to be tough. And yet Europeans know this isn't true. So by and large, the ignoring of the marijuana laws and the obligations under the one treaty, that's happening in Europe. It's not only happening in Holland, but it's happening in other countries. It's happening in Italy, it's happening in France, it's happening in Great Britain, it's happening in Canada. I've had enormous success at testifying in medical marijuana laws in Canada. You know, right now Canada has let a contract to people to grow medicinal marijuana and have approved medicinal status for 300 Canadians and more coming. All you have to do is file with a proper statement. And the Canadian courts have said if marijuana is medicinal, and it seems to be, then it's a matter of fundamental justice to not arrest people who are using marijuana for medicinal purposes. It goes against the grain of fundamental justice. That's what the Canadian courts have said. And the
going after medical marijuana patients in California and terminally ill patients up in Oregon to exert toxic federalism and to attempt to insert the federal right-wing mentality into the mix. Terrible to have John Ashcroft, this Bible-thumping, simple-minded Main Streeter, moralist, who, just too bad. Where is H.L. Mencken when we need him to really put these rubes in their place? Instead, we elevate them to great authority and turn over decisions of life and death and freedom to them. It's kind of like the whole criminality and prohibition creates these illicit markets that are somehow lapses in perception by the free marketeers. I find this really humorous because we have this great pressure of mercantilism, but here we have this free market mercantilism with the illicit substances and activities that do quite well, notwithstanding official status, such as sex industry, the underage drinking industry, which is of course illegal, and the biggest killer of all, the nicotine industry, all the underage smoking. I mean, how many are waiting to the age of majority to ingest that talk show call after I got a letter published in the New York Times suggesting what I just did of the OxyContin manufacturers splitting the costs of Detox. The really a right-wing corporate hugging talk show host that, take away from the bottom line of industry? You've got to be kidding. The wings. No, I remember how fearful, appropriately fearful I was when I was attending a Tim Leary presentation, and he was really working the crowd and getting them very enthusiastic and saying, tune in, turn on, and drop out. I'm thinking, oh, you're in for big trouble, buddy. As a result, I never permitted my photograph to be taken with him. And you report to me is working? Yes, I concur, and it's okay medically. You have the blessing of the secular priest. This is important. Many people really would like to look to the physician for this kind of tutelage and leadership. And I'm just so pleased with my relationships with my patients as an ally and a coach rather than a father figure or parental unit for them to run their transference numbers on. And it's not like being a script doc for some addictive drug, like some benzodiazepine or something like that. It's not like having giving people medicines with bad side effects that they will tolerate because they want